Pickens trade aftermath. Big Deke news. Today we're going to go over every reaction from people that matter regarding the George Pickens trade, people that were actually involved in it, and then also some reports on why Pickens was traded. There was some other stuff that came out and some further explanation. So I'll go over all that, and then I'll give a final reaction at the end of the video. First, George Pickens. What does the man that got traded have to say about no longer being a Pittsburgh Steeler and now being a part of the Dallas Cowboys organization? Well, the only real thing that we have confirmed that he said any real reaction that's out there took place at the end of last week, where he did a press conference with Dallas Cowboy media members, because there was something that popped up over the weekend that he called out the Steelers organization on Instagram, but that ended up being fake news. So here's what we know for a fact he had to say about the trade. Business. This game is just as much a business as it is football. Just kind of like out of my control. I'm glad to be here in Dallas and able to continue the winning culture that they have. He also responded to Mike Tomlin saying last season that Pickens needed to grow up. It says, just taking one day at a time. I feel like everybody in the world is working on growing, on their bettering of themselves. I feel like growth for me is taking a great direction to me coming to the Cowboys. Pickens also confirmed some of the reports that we've already heard about the trade and him making a trade request. He said that he did not, but also his contract situation as he heads to Dallas. Says, I'm kind of where my feet are right now, to be honest. I'm not really thinking about contract talks. I'm just glad to be here at the Cowboys right now, trying to build a winning culture. Not going to front. I think Pickens did a really good job here. Not stirring the pot, not causing any unnecessary drama. Focused on the future with his new team. Said that the trade was business. Basically, like, no hard feelings or anything like that. It is what it is. But he's moving on. And then when talking about growth, he's like, don't we all have to grow? I'm trying to grow each and every day, and I think being a part of the Cowboys, it's going to help in that. I think he did a good job in how he handled this press conference. And that was one of the things I think most of us are interested in and are going to continue to be interested in, is how Pickens handles the Cowboys media and just how he handles the whole situation in Dallas, really. But I think with this interview, he's off to a good start. Now, let's hear from the Steelers side of things. Omar Khan on his perspective.
The trade sort of happened quickly. We had some people inquire during the draft. Nothing that really made sense, and Cowboys reached out. I don't really remember what day it was, but earlier this week, and they gave us they proposed something that for us to think about, and we had conversations internally. I also had some conversations with George's agent Dave, who I have a good relationship with, and we discussed where things, I guess, have been with George, where they are, and where things could go with George, and this trade made sense for everyone. We just kind of talked about it. Lots of serious conversation, honest conversations, and we just felt that a fresh start for both sides was the right thing.
Now, this is what Coach T had to say.
I'm not going to add any color to it other than what Omar told you guys yesterday. We thought it was best and timely for all parties involved. Really, I'm just focused on the opportunity that is this weekend for the rookies.
I wouldn't expect anything different from both Omar and Coach Tomlin. Did anyone actually think that we were going to hear some real reasoning as to why we got rid of Pickens? Like, oh, man, you wouldn't believe what he did on such and such date last year, or what he did before the game, or he was constantly showing up late. We couldn't put up with it anymore. We weren't getting any of that. They kept it professional as well and just said, best for both sides to move on, fresh start, yada, yada, yada. I get that. But we do have some stuff from reporters like Mark Caboli and Jerry Dulac that give us more of an inside scoop as to the Steelers' real reasoning behind this trade and how things really were with Pickens over these last couple of years and why it led them to this point.
It was so bad, Billy, that they made the move right now and didn't even wait till later. And the litany of violations apparently were endless. I remember one of the players telling me last year during the season that they don't, half the people, internally don't even realize. The people internally don't even realize half the violations that he commits. And the players, that they're not going to. They see that, they're not going to tolerate that. If the coaches and management don't do something about it, then they lose respect for them. So Mike Tomlin makes all roster decisions, and the only way he doesn't is if Art Rooney trumps him and says, no, that's not going to happen. But Mike Tomlin had enough. And, he was a guy who defended Pickens from the get-go. But it just goes to show you, Billy, how big a problem it had become that they thought they don't even want to start the season with the guy, and that's why they made the move.
I think it needed to be done, Bob. I think it was getting really ugly behind the scenes there, and I think some of the players of veteran leadership weren't too thrilled with George. I think a lot of the players were finally fed up with him, and the right players were fed up with him.
And then finally, this is what a couple Steeler players thought of the trade, or what their instant reaction was to hearing about it. Peyton Wilson and Beanie Bishop.
So it's funny because everybody back home, like in the offseason, like they're like, yo, who y'all getting at quarterback? I'm trying to tell these people, we know when the media tells us.
I was on my way to the facility, and I just checked my phone, and I look, and it's like, breaking news,
man.
Pittsburgh's trading
But
George
you don't ever
Pickens
believe it till you see Adam on there. You know what I'm talking about? The front office isn't just making moves for like this year. And that's kind of what I've had to learn. Like, they really trying to stack year on top of year on top of year. Like obviously us being in it, we want to win a Super Bowl every single year, but it's probably a little different for the front office. Like they make this trade, okay, we can set up for this pick this year, and obviously I have no clue what I'm talking about, but that's just the way I look at it. So I don't even really like where I'm at, I play ball, I try to do my job.
Now here's my final thoughts. Whenever you look at all this stuff, you add it all up and everything, look at the full context, I think it just all makes sense, really. I think each part of this, all these different dynamics add up. Like Peyton Wilson and Beanie Bishop talking about how the Steelers are looking towards the future. Like, they're not just focused on this year, but as an organization, you got to also plan for the future and how things are going to look in 2026, 2027, how you're going to be able to set yourself up for success for the years down the line. For sure. 100%. I think that's a given when you're running an NFL franchise. But let's not act like just because we traded Pickens, we're going to be out of it for 2025. Remember what I said initially, this is potentially just going to be addition by subtraction. It doesn't make sense on paper. It doesn't make sense from a Madden standpoint. But you hear what Mark Caboli and Jerry Dulac were saying. Maybe it is going to be addition by subtraction. Maybe getting rid of Pickens is actually going to help us for 2025. As weird as it sounds, there is that whole locker room chemistry type of stuff, the vibes type of stuff that you can't really put your finger on, that you can't really explain how losing a guy like Pickens is going to make us better, but it just does. From a camaraderie standpoint, from a standpoint that everyone's going to be all in, that everyone could sacrifice for each other, and you're not going to have one guy that's going to be me first, and it kind of just derails the whole thing. Because what type of message are you sending the locker room if you're allowing one guy to be doing his own thing and show up late, do things his way, stir up stuff? Like, if you're going to allow that to happen, what message is that sending everyone else? How can you say, like, oh, man, you guys got to be all in. We got to be giving 100%. This is all about team first. It's mixed messaging. And apparently Tomlin had enough of it. The Steelers had enough of it. It hit its breaking point. We feel like we weren't going to sign him anyway. For the future, we got a third-round pick, and we move on. We feel like we're actually low-key bettering ourselves for 2025, while at the same time still building for the future. Now let's see what Aaron Rodgers does. Let's see what other moves we make the rest of free agency. But I think actually after hearing some of this stuff, it goes hand in hand with what I was initially saying. When the trade first happened, my day of reaction, I was like, man, this feels bad. This feels weird. We're talking about trying to go all in. I wanted to see what Pickens and Metcalf looked like. But I think as time's going to go on, this trade is going to age well for the Steelers. And, we're only how many days out, and just hearing some of these reports and the real reasoning behind it. Yeah, I think the Steelers are going to be just fine. At least in terms of Pickens being here or not being here isn't going to be make or breaking the franchise. If you want to talk about quarterback or what we're doing on offense, or if we're going to be able to get this defense into the top 5 category, top 3 category, like they're being paid to be, those are different concerns. But in terms of Pickens and how much that really is going to affect the Steelers for 2025 and for the future, I think we're going to be just fine. But that's it for today's episode. Big Deke News. Hope you enjoyed. Stay chilling. Peace.